Thanks everyone for showing up to Deliver America today. I think my name is Charles Folsom. I'm the head of customer success at Nash, and I'm really excited to talk to you about how we're helping Walmart kind of build delivery networks that work, and how they're expanding their last mile expansion playbook. And with me today, I have Sai. Sai, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone. A silent disc was also weird, but really exciting to be here. Really great to see you all here. I'm a senior director of last mile delivery at Walmart. I lead different parts of our last mile delivery business, whether it's delivery through vans or delivery through our partners or third-party partnerships to deliver last mile packages from our stores to customers.
Great. So let's get started. So I think the first thing to kind of set the stage, Sai, I'd love for you to kind of talk through what you do, what you're doing at Walmart, and kind of all the different challenges that you're seeing today.
Yeah, of course. Firstly, before I get into all of that, I would start with what last mile delivery means for Walmart, because last mile delivery could mean different things for different companies. And at Walmart, as you all know, we lead always with the customer and try to get and deliver the customer what they want, when they want, where they want. And to do that, what we've been doing over the past few years is leveraging our store footprint extensively to get to the customer. And as you know, there's a Walmart in about a 10-mile radius, about 90% of the US population. And we have 4,700 of these locations, plus 600 Sam's Club locations. So we use all of these locations, 5,000 plus locations, as our fulfillment centers to either deliver groceries to our customers or e-commerce packages to our customers. And that's what you see on the slide here is we either leverage the inventory that's already at the stores or bring it from our fulfillment centers through our own middle mile trucks to our stores to then deliver to our customers. And that's what we call as last mile, is anything being fulfilled from our stores. And as you see on the picture here, is there's various different methods on how we get that to our customers. There is a few different internal platforms we have, in-house capabilities, whether that's in-home delivery vans, where we use our own vans and associates to deliver groceries inside customers' homes, stock their fridges, stock their kitchens. We have a network of our own gig platform called Spark Network, and there's quite a bit of drivers on there that deliver packages for us. And we also leverage third-party partnerships, many DSP, delivery service provider partnerships, to deliver for our customers. One other thing that I left out of here, out of that, is on the slide here, is drone delivery as well. Just last week, we announced that we made 300,000 drone deliveries to date. We're expanding in a few different cities and states with that. That's also one of the offerings in last mile, and the environment for last mile is ever changing, right? So with that, and the customer expectations also been changing with last mile. With that, there's a lot of complexity that comes into what the customer is expecting in last mile, and speed expectation is growing day by day for the customer. And what I mentioned earlier, with about 5,000 locations everywhere in the country, that also brings a lot of complexity into different nuances of how you deliver in different places of the country. Whether you're delivering in a very busy downtown or whether you're delivering in a suburban rural area, which is far off from the store. And with that comes the complexity of having to have different modes of transportation or different modes of channels to deliver or get goods to your customers. So to complement our in-house capabilities, we also need a plethora of third-party partnerships to add more capacity. And the complexity with that is then you have to figure out technical integrations with all of these different providers, which takes a lot of time. But last but not the least, on top of all of this, we're heading into peak season pretty soon here. So that also gives us or adds more complexity of needing to scale up your network to support a lot more volume in a very short time.
Oh, that's great, Sai. So I'm going to take a second to step back. Obviously, everyone's heard of Walmart. Maybe not everyone is as familiar with Nash. So I'm going to take a quick break to help familiarize the audience with Nash. So as I said, my name's Charles Folsom. I'm the head of customer success with Nash, and our role in this story with Walmart is that we help provide a modern orchestration layer that takes all of the complexities that Sai just talked about and helps simplify them. And the biggest piece of this is, again, on as you think about adding capacity, as you think about adding carriers, as you think about increasing the complexity of your network, you have to constantly think about how are you going to actually technically implement this. And what Nash provides to Walmart is a single integration layer that helps them integrate once with with Nash, and then we help bridge the gap between the complexities that they're trying to drive, and how do we actually execute that from a technical and an operational standpoint. And as I said, the reality of consumer expectations are constantly evolving. And the other piece of this is, if this was 5, 10 years ago, and Walmart needed to make adjustments to their fulfillment system, that those adjustments will be made, and we wouldn't know for a quarter or a year like the results of those adjustments. With the expansion of consumer expectations, that change means that we need to measure those in weeks, if not days, right? We have to move faster, and again, that's the platform that Nash has built allows for a lot of this stuff. And I think the last piece that I'll say before moving on that is what we're talking about today is happening literally live, right? This isn't a case study that we did and we're done and we wiped our hands of it and things have improved and we've moved on, right? We're gearing up for peak season right now as we speak. And together, Nash and Walmart are working to make that as successful of a reality for Walmart as possible. But before we dive into that, let me give you just a quick background on Nash. So Nash is not just like a single product. We are an operating system or infrastructure layer for last mile logistics. And the way that we kind of see the world is that we provide services for the entire customer and delivery journey. And we have modules and software to kind of help through pre-purchase, execution, and post-purchase. So if we think about pre-purchase, what does that mean? We connect with both your internal resources and any third-party providers that you may be interested in working with. We can also introduce you to new ones if you need ones. And then we also provide a system called Promise, which integrates directly with your e-com network to provide real-time dynamic delivery window availability and pricing, and that's based on the exact data that's available in the system right now. Once you move past the purchase point, you move into execution. Our orchestration layer provides full automation of dispatch strategies. Who is the carrier that's going to be assigned? It could be internal, it could be third party. We handle automatic reassignment. So if a provider ends up failing for whatever reason, we can automatically handle that. And then ultimately, there's just a lot of intelligence baked into that system. And then once you move into post-purchase, this is where a lot of retailers are starting to kind of lose visibility in the delivery journey, where Nash helps close that. So we offer an engaged product that helps retailers own the delivery experience that their end customers see. They're not handing off a tracking experience to a national carrier like a FedEx or a UPS just to own the tracking experience. That also allows for extra touch points that the retailer can have, like feedback loops of how was the delivery, that sort of thing. And then we also offer a returns product that really helps with reverse logistics and things like that. So it really is kind of an operating system, is what I like to say, on everything you could possibly want to fulfill the customer journey. And I think, to me, that's kind of where the story really starts with Nash and with Walmart. And it really starts with how do we think about building a flexible system that can really help Walmart with the needs that they need. And so, Sai, could you give me some context on what challenges Walmart's facing right now?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned earlier, our last mile delivery space or e-commerce is evolving every day. And there's been a lot of growth in this space for the last 4 years or so. With that growth comes a lot of complexity of managing our network across the country with ever-growing demands from the customers as well. And if you think of Walmart, we literally deliver anything you can imagine. So we deliver all the way from hot chickens to birthday cakes to 75-inch TVs, right? And we also recently announced that we're delivering prescription deliveries now to customers. So there's a lot of need for us to move quick and fast. And to do this, while we leverage many of our in-house capabilities, we also sometimes have to rely on specific third-party partners. And the complexity with that is, there's the partners that provide various different functionalities and capacity in different parts of the country. And to go and figure out an integration with each of them individually just takes a lot of time and complexity, and also the burden of upkeeping those technological integrations or pipelines with them is a lot of drag, on the team. Last but not the least, like I mentioned earlier, with that also we have these peak season that's coming up here pretty soon. probably started for some of you all. But peak for us is coming in waves throughout the year because we've been doing deals for days events throughout the year for our customers and members. So every single time that happens, we need to add more capacity to our network, and that also brings its own challenges.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for that. Oh, I totally forgot to advance the slide. The good news is we've moved past the sales portion, which I'm not very good at. So now we're into the portion that I am very good at. Hopefully, we'll find out. But I think what I would add to that is, Walmart is continuing to push the boundaries on what is possible to drive customer experience. And in order to do that, they really need to scale their ability to experiment, right? And what that ultimately means is, Sai hit on a couple of them. It's late night ordering. How do we implement that? How do we implement new delivery windows that we're not currently offering today? How do we make stricter delivery promises that we aren't doing? How do we add new propositions like pharmacy or drone delivery or anything like this? Obviously, there's a lot of complexity that comes with even one of those decisions, and Walmart is looking at all of them at the same time, right? And so, what if you think about some of those complexities, you're talking a lot of different code changes potentially. You're talking a lot of operational changes, store operations, and all of these things kind of need to be accounted for. And what Nash gives Walmart is the ability to act on these ideas immediately, right? It doesn't take a long planning process to get through the product prioritization queue with their own internal tech teams. They've already kind of done this work by integrating with Nash, because ultimately what happens is now what used to be a code change or what used to be something that was very complex to make an experiment happen within that Walmart system, now these things are being handled by operators. Like, they're being handled by the logistics team. We don't have to integrate, or we don't have to involve Walmart's internal product teams to make these things happen. They're just simple UI configuration changes in the portal, and that is kind of what is giving Walmart the ability to scale and experiment and really hit this. They can develop a hypothesis, they can gather data, they can implement it, they can gather data, they can take action based on that data, and they can rinse and repeat this entire process incredibly quickly. And so I think one thing that I'm curious about, Sai, is, we've talked a lot about speed, but we also, we know cost is also a big factor. In your opinion, for Walmart's growth, like, what's more important?
Yeah, great question, and something we always ask internally as well. I mean, it's all of the above, right? Speed, cost, flexibility, and scalability. So all of those are super important. Like I mentioned earlier, our customers' expectation on speed has changed drastically, and we're trying to keep up with that. And we actually, right now, think speed is one of the biggest competitive advantage and lever that we have to win our customers. And cost is always going to be one of our north stars at Walmart, because the belief is, everything we can do to save cost in our operations, we'll be able to invest it back into our prices for our customers and keep our prices everyday low price.
No, that's great. So, you've identified the need to move faster. Can you kind of walk through the decision to integrate with Nash?
Yeah, of course. And as I talk about it, and both Charles and I have been talking about the different complexities or propositions we had to go through. One of the big things at Walmart is, whenever there's an hypothesis, we do a fair bit of analysis, but we try not to be bogged down by analysis paralysis, but really quickly try to test and learn, do a bunch of different experiments, put it out in the real world, and hear from our associates, from our customers, and look at real-time data signals to identify what works for our business and our customers. Iterate, then change or pause or scale depending on the results, right? So, our partnership with Nash, and probably started last year. As we scale with Nash, what we've identified is Nash as a platform gave us the ability to integrate with multiple different DSP partners, and we didn't have to. Every single time we had to test something new, we didn't have to figure out these one-off hooks or one-off integrations with a new provider. So I think that was a big reason, Charles. And the second one is also the ability to move fast on anything we wanted to test. And finally, the configurability or the flexibility it gave us to have configurations or settings at a store level also gave us the ability to have run specific tests in specific markets.
Oh, that's great. So to get a little bit more into the weeds of how this happened and how this worked, right? Walmart came to us with a challenge of they want to be able to enable new delivery propositions quickly, efficiently, without requiring their engineering team, without requiring code changes. So you can kind of see here the history of the timeline of the relationship between Nash and Walmart. I think the thing that I would call out in the to get started, September was of last year was when we formally kicked off the partnership. We were live in all 5,000 locations by before peak season, right? It took us about 4 to 5 weeks to do the integration work, to get Walmart fully integrated with the Nash platform. And then from there, we've been doing nothing but running, right? We were able to really help them with the optimization of kind of some oversized deliveries over peak season last year. And then as 2025 has progressed, right, we just continually find new ways to experiment and new ways to find ways of getting more data and what can we do to optimize the network and what can we do to make all of this work better for Walmart's end customer, right? And I think all of this happens through one integration. It gives Walmart access to a full nationwide network of providers. Some of them are going to be national providers that you've absolutely worked with. Some of them are going to be regional providers that you've probably heard of, but maybe you haven't worked with. And then the largest number of them are thousands of local providers that you couldn't even possibly imagine, right? And all this happens with Nash through this single integration, and it allows us to kind of figure out what's working, what's not working, very, very quickly and efficiently. And it effectively acts as a sandbox within production, right? So the way that Nash works is we can siphon off at a store level or even at an individual delivery proposition level at a store, and we can run these experiments without impacting any of the core network. So we maintain the reliability of the core stuff that we know works, and then we continue to iterate on the stuff that we want to trial or experiment with, right? And I think the thing, I kind of hit on it, Sai, but I'd love your take from the Walmart side. Like, how were you surprised by how quickly some of these results came in?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned last year when we started the partnership, we were able to add capacity in some key areas across the network in a very short time for peak. And from there, I think our ability to pilot and learn quickly in different places for different propositions was super important. And that's what I think has led to the other changes you spoke about this year, and you'll probably touch upon more around some of our plans for this year. But I think that was one. And then two, also the ability to get real-time visibility into some of the results and data that our team can then proactively look at, make changes on the fly was also super important for us and pretty impressive.
Awesome. So to put a couple numbers on that, like I said earlier, it took about 4 to 5 weeks for Walmart to get from 0 to at least one delivery proposition live in all 5,000 stores. So that was last year. A lot of what we've been focusing on this year is kind of daily, like all-day van delivery routes. And you can kind of see right now we're at 140 steady state, and we're expecting to be above 1,000 daily routes during peak season. 1,000 may not be a big number until you think about the fact that this represents 100 or more drops per route. So it's 1,000 routes, but it represents 100,000 daily deliveries. And this is something that's unlocking a lot of efficiency gains for Walmart. It's helping out on a lot of the provider side. It helps out on store operations because they can release product in bulk as opposed to having individual gig drivers show up. And ultimately, every single one of these deliveries, whether it's point to point, whether it's an all-day route, represents a live loop, right? It's a live data loop. We are tracking every piece of data that's available on every delivery, regardless of who the eventual carrier is. So we're tracking things like order time, we're tracking dwell time, we're actually tracking how quickly are the store associates getting the products to the drivers so we can help Walmart improve their own internal store operations. And all of this data is ultimately what feeds back into the algorithms and the experiments and how do we get better and how do we learn. It's this data that happens on every single delivery. And ultimately that's what Nash is and offers, is a completely unified data model across all delivery types, across all carriers. So you can make apples to apples comparisons, you can make decisions, you can implement them quickly, um, and you can again you can learn and experiment and move from there. Um, I think the other thing that I would say here is, it's the day before Halloween. Obviously, we all know peak shopping season is basically upon us. Um, so we've been using 2025 to experiment and learn and grow. And now that we're here in peak season, it's time to stop doing that, right? It's time to basically take all of the learnings that we've accomplished over the past, 8, 10 months, and really kind of lock them in and make sure that when we hit peak season, we're not going to get surprised, because that is not the time to be running these experiments. And Nash is also very good at helping that helping that transition. Um, so I think one thing I'd love to know, Sai, was anything surprising about these results?
Yeah, I think one of the things you mentioned earlier is the kind of insights we got into different parts of the operations as we went through scaling these different experiments. I think was one of the surprise that we quickly iterated, were able to innovate and learn the process. And like I mentioned earlier too, is how quickly and how nimble we could get with different settings or configurations in different markets.
That's great. That's great. One more thing I'd like to throw up on the screen that I'm particularly proud of. So not only are we helping Walmart improve their operations and get more efficient there, but there's a downstream effect as well that's helping the Walmart vendors. So you can see a quote on the screen here. This is direct from one of their vendors who's doing one of these routes. Right, the Nash platform has saved them 2.5 hours on every single route, every single day, and that's just another. It's a great data point on the system is constantly learning, constantly figuring out how to make itself better. And again, like, this is one that I'm particularly proud of, because it speaks to, it's a network, right? It's not just Walmart. There's also a carrier side on the other side that Nash is also helping. Um, so I think from here, right? Hopefully the results kind of speak for themselves of what we've kind of run through. But I guess, Sai, what are your key takeaways?
Yeah, key takeaways, and I think we're talking about best practices or key takeaways from partnerships. I think look for partners that are nimble, that are scrappy, that are able to move with the speed that your company wants them to. Look for those flexible partners you're able to work with, and then two, be transparent and have shared goals and shared metrics between companies. Right, so I typically see some companies where they don't share all of their goals or metrics or SLAs with their partners, and that's often a pitfall you fall into without, because if you don't have shared vision, then you're not marching towards the same goal. So have that open dialogue between your partners, establish your SLAs upfront, and then finally, like I mentioned earlier, don't go through analysis paralysis and the what if scenarios. Just go and do it. Do it small. Learn early. Learn before peak season is here, before your big events are here, and then if you fail, then you just go back and iterate and change and come up with a different solution.
Yeah, that's great. I think if I was going to add to that, my takeaways, first and foremost, right? Every retailer is facing the same pressures. Consumer demands are getting harder and harder. The industry is getting more fragmented. There's different ways of doing deliveries now. There's obviously a million different delivery carriers out there. You can do ship from store, you can do distribution fulfillment, etc. And so, as the market continues to get more demanding, but the way that you fulfill delivery gets more and more fragmented, this challenge only gets harder and harder. And my takeaway would be, you shouldn't copy what Walmart is doing, right? But what you should do is copy the foundation that Walmart has built, and a culture of constant iteration and constant learning. And in order to do that, you do need some foundational aspects in place before you're going to be able to do that. I think in a little bit, just a couple more rapid fire, right? We've talked about it before, but the time for experimentation is when it's calm, not when it's busy. Just make sure that you're not, you're living inside the reality of the situation. You do need that foundation to build on top of everything. If you don't have the foundation, then it becomes very hard to experiment. It becomes very hard to learn. use real-time data, right? In a lot of time, in a lot of cases, in a lot of our customers, we start with a situation where the customer can't get access to delivery data for a week or more, and obviously that the longer it takes for the data to become available, the longer the iteration cycle is. Uh, Choose your partners that can move as fast as your customers need you to, right? I think that's we've hit on that a number of times, but I think that the part that I would hit on is your customers are already demanding this, so you need to find partners that will match the speed of your customers' demands. Um, and then, yeah, fully agree on shared metrics, right? You should all be looking at the exact same metrics. You shouldn't be having to have a discussion every single time, like, well, what does this metric mean? And two different parties have two different definitions of what it means. So make sure that you're aligned on what these metrics are, and the way that you're tracking them, and the way that you're reporting on them, and that sort of thing. And I think if I have a closing thought, the retailers that are going to win in this ever-evolving market are not the ones that have the most scale anymore, right? Obviously, Walmart has a ton of scale, and they can do a lot of things that maybe some others can't, but that's not the defining factor of who's going to win in this market anymore. The defining factor, in my opinion, is who can adapt the fastest, because the world is changing, and it's changing faster than ever, and if you can't keep up, no matter your scale, you're not going to win in this market. Sai, you have a final thought?
No, I think pretty much in line with that. I think world is changing every day as we speak, right? So just be nimble, be quick, adapt to it, and find the right partners who can come along with you on that journey.
Great. And I think there's a QR code if anyone has any questions. We have a few minutes left, about 10 minutes. So. I don't know how this works. Does it? No? Okay. Excellent. What? Yep. Okay. I have a couple questions. So the first question, with peak season already here, are there things I can do now to drive change, and/or what should I start doing now to prepare for next year? Sai, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can start off and see what your thoughts are. Uh, Depends on who you are and what your peak is, but peak is already here for most of us, right? We are going through Halloween right now this week, and before we know, we'll be flipping all of our stores early next week into Christmas mode, and we're in that peak for the next couple of months. But if you're a shipper or a carrier, and if you're planning for peak, and hopefully you have a good retrospective process where you learned from your experiences from last year's peak or years before, and have a good playbook to make sure you're planning for those errors from last year. But now, between now and peak, what I would do is probably identify those risks on, hey, where are there gaps in your network? What did we learn in the past from what we did during peak? And try to plan for that risk. I'm not sure if, depending on what size company you are, I'm not sure there's still opportunity to course correct on some things. But if I were planning for my own network, I'd probably look for areas of risk and plan risk mitigation for those.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. If we go back to the timeline we had up there, right? We started with Walmart in September, which is very close to now, and it was incredibly stressful. I think I'd be a hypocrite if I said you could start now and be in line and ready for Black Friday. So yeah, so I think I would agree with that 100%. I think the time now is what to do now is to figure out what you do well, figure out where your risk points are, mitigate them as much as you can, and then in the few moments you may have between now and Black Friday, if you can think about what December looks like as an example, or January, think about what you might want to do, right? And then do that. But ultimately, right now, it's time to focus on what matters most. Another question. We're a much smaller retailer than Walmart. How would you apply the playbook at a smaller scale, slash just starting to invest in last mile?
Yeah, good question. I think thinking about whether my time here at Walmart or in other companies before, the environment or for, especially in the delivery world or shipping world, is very different. I think traditionally we're talking about, multi-million dollar ERP projects for multi-years, versus right now there's so many options in the market where a company of any size can move quick. So we're even seeing some, for example, if you're a small medium business running your business out of your garage, they have various different companies even catering to those businesses. So regardless of what size business you are, I think there's a lot of whether it's software or delivery partners or technology partners options available in the market. So I'm pretty sure the size of a company should not come in the way of innovation or delivering for your customers.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Um, I think we've seen that. I hit on this earlier, right? But I think we've seen that in the past, like scale was the only thing that really mattered. Like getting to someone the size of Walmart was really the how you win the battle. With agentic commerce and a whole bunch of other stuff that's happening right now in the world, right? The way that not only that consumers are expecting to interface with the retailers, but also the way that the retailers are expected to kind of fulfill those demands is changing. And again, I hit on this a little bit earlier, but right, it's no longer the mightiest is the one that's going to win. It's the one who's the most agile and the most flexible. And I think those were the only questions that came in. So I think at this point we're going to wrap up. And thanks for everyone. Oh right, the sales team wants me to pitch Nash. I told you I was bad at that. Come by. We're booth A32 over in the corner over there. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to talk about your challenges and how we might be able to help. And Sai, thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you all for sticking out.